Second week of July, a woman named Carla pulled into my bay with her hand still on the AC vent, apologizing before she even said hello. She told me every time she started the car, it smelled like a wet gym bag had been left in the trunk for a month. Her kids had started holding their noses in the back seat, and her youngest refused to ride in the middle where the vent hits hardest. She'd taken it to a shop across town 2 days earlier, sat through a 40-minute wait, and walked out with a written quote for $640 to pull the dash apart and replace the evaporator core. She told me she sat in that parking lot with the engine off, ran the number against her rent for that month, and drove straight to me instead, half expecting me to tell her the same thing. I didn't touch the dash. I didn't order a part. I popped the hood, found the fresh air intake tucked under the base of her windshield where most people have never once looked, and asked her a single question. Had anyone ever told her what actually lives inside that black plastic housing behind her glove box? She said no, nobody ever does, because the fix costs about 90 cents and the $640 estimate doesn't. She stood there in my bay with her arms crossed, half expecting a lecture about maintenance she'd skipped, and I had to tell her twice that she hadn't done anything wrong. Every air conditioner on Earth grows this over time. It comes standard with the system. The smell was mold, growing in the dark on a cold, wet piece of metal every single time she ran her air conditioning. And there's a brown bottle sitting in most people's bathroom cabinet right now that kills it in about 15 minutes flat. Today, I'm walking you through 4 things I keep reaching for out of that same bottle. Tricks that save my regular customers real money on jobs shops love to quote in the hundreds. And the one mistake that turns this whole cheap fix into a bill bigger than the one you were trying to avoid in the first place. Some of what I'm about to show you, a dealership would genuinely rather you never learn, because the moment you know it, you stop paying for it. My name is Bob Jones, and none of this came from a shop manual. It came from years of watching people pay for things they could have handled themselves if somebody had just walked them through it. So I wrote it down. It's called the Driveway Mechanics Manual, linked below. Now, the first one. Every car with air conditioning has an evaporator core, a small radiator-looking piece buried behind your dash that runs ice cold every time you flip the AC on. Cold metal sitting in humid air does exactly what a cold glass of tea does on a summer porch. It sweats, drop after drop, mile after mile. That moisture runs down into a dark, sealed housing with almost no airflow and no sunlight, which happens to be the single best environment mold spores could ask for. Give it a few humid months, a few short trips where the system never fully dries out, and you've got a colony growing across the fins of that evaporator. Every time the blower kicks on, it pushes air straight across that mold and into your face, your kids' faces, and anyone else riding along. Cars that live in humid climates get it worse. Cars that sit parked for days at a time between drives get it worse. Running the AC on recirculate constantly, which a lot of drivers do without thinking, actually traps the moisture inside the system instead of letting it clear out, and speeds the whole process up. Shops will happily sell you a cabin air filter swap for $40, which helps a little and fixes nothing underneath it. They'll sell you a full evaporator pull for $500, $600, sometimes $700, which does kill the smell, but replaces a part that was never actually broken to begin with. Hydrogen peroxide is registered by the EPA as a surface disinfectant. It kills mold and mildew on contact, then breaks down into plain water and oxygen and leaves nothing behind for you to wipe up or rinse out. Here's exactly how you use it on a car. Buy a bottle of the plain 3% stuff from any drugstore, the kind that runs about $1. Pour it into an empty spray bottle. Pop the hood and find the cowl vents, the slotted plastic panel running along the base of your windshield, right where it meets the hood. Start the car, AC running, blower on high, and switch recirculate off so the system is actively pulling in outside air instead of just cycling what's already inside. Spray the peroxide directly down into those vent slots in short bursts of about 10 seconds each. Let it get pulled through the whole system, then give it a 5-minute rest before you spray it again. Do that 2 or 3 rounds. You'll smell bleach for a minute or 2 while it works. Then you won't smell anything at all. A quick way to tell if this is actually your problem before you start, run the AC on high with the windows up and see if the smell hits hardest in the first 30 seconds and fades after. If it does, that's mold, not a dead rodent or a coolant leak, and this fix is the one you need. That's the first one. The second lives under the hood in a place most owners never think to look until something's already gone wrong. Battery terminals, chrome trim, and bare metal all corrode through the exact same chemical process, oxidation. And hydrogen peroxide breaks that reaction apart almost as fast as it built up. Dab it straight onto a rusted trailer hitch, a seized jack handle, or a set of lug nuts nobody's touched in years. Let it sit and foam for about 2 minutes, then scrub with an old toothbrush or a wire brush. That foam is the peroxide splitting iron oxide back into its base parts at a molecular level, the same reaction that pulls a blood stain out of fabric or lifts old rust rings off a toolbox shelf. A parts store will happily sell you a bottled rust dissolver for $12 that runs on the identical chemistry with a fancier label and a picture of a wrench on the front. This same trick works on the light surface rust that shows up on brake rotors after a car sits through a rainy week, the kind that makes a grinding sound for the first quarter mile and then disappears. A few pumps on the exposed rotor edge, a short drive to let the brakes bite through it, and that noise is gone without a caliper ever coming off the car. The third handles paint and glass, and it's the one people are the most surprised by. Bug guts, tree sap, and hard water spots from sprinklers or a bad car wash all bond to a clear coat the same stubborn way, and most of what people reach for to remove them, ammonia glass cleaner, dish soap, a fingernail, either does nothing or scratches the surface trying. Mix equal parts hydrogen peroxide and water in a spray bottle, mist it directly over the spot, and let it sit for a full 2 minutes before you touch it with a microfiber towel. The peroxide breaks the proteins in bug residue and the mineral bonds in hard water spots apart chemically instead of forcing you to scrub them off mechanically, which is exactly what protects the clear coat underneath. On a windshield with heavy mineral haze from years of sprinkler overspray, you'll often need 2 applications, but you'll see the glass clear up in front of you in real time. And on a hood covered in old bug strikes from a summer road trip, 1 pass with a soaked towel does what an hour of scrubbing with soap and water never quite finishes. Before you go spraying this on every part of your car, I need to give you the one warning that keeps this trick from turning into a bill bigger than the one you were trying to avoid. Hydrogen peroxide is a mild bleach. On painted metal, on your dashboard plastic, or anywhere near seat fabric with any real dye in it, it can lighten the color if you leave it sitting too long, or reach for the stronger salon-grade version instead of the plain 3% stuff off the shelf. Test it on a hidden patch first, 10 minutes, out of direct sunlight, and never go above 3% concentration on anything you're not fully willing to see turn a shade lighter. Keep it off your car's clear plastic headlight covers, too. It won't hurt them the way it can hurt paint, but it also won't do a thing for the yellowing there, and I'd rather you not waste a good bottle finding that out yourself. If you're getting something out of this, hit like right now before I forget to ask, because it tells the channel to put this in front of the next person about to hand over $600 for a job that costs less than their lunch. Subscribe while you're at it. I post one of these every week. The fourth trick handles something almost everyone deals with eventually, whether it's a coffee spill, a kid's juice box, or the aftermath of a dog that couldn't wait for the next rest stop. Mix a tablespoon of hydrogen peroxide with a tablespoon of baking soda and a small squirt of dish soap into a paste. Work it into the stain with an old rag, let it sit for 10 minutes, then blot it out with cold water and a shop vac if you've got one handy. The peroxide breaks down the organic compounds, causing both the stain and the smell at the same time, instead of just masking one while leaving the other to creep back in a week later. A professional interior detail runs anywhere from $150 to $300 depending on where you live, and most of what you're paying for is exactly this mixture, poured into a nicer-looking bottle with a brand name on it. Carla texted me 2 days after that appointment, said the smell never came back, and her youngest finally stopped complaining about the back seat on the drive to school. She also mentioned, almost as an afterthought, that she'd spent that same week pricing out a new car, convinced the smell meant something was seriously wrong under the hood, before she found out it was mold living behind a plastic panel the whole time. That's the part that gets me every time. People don't just overpay for fixes like this one. They start doubting cars that are perfectly fine because nobody ever bothered to show them what was actually going on underneath the plastic. I've had customers trade in cars over a smell they couldn't explain, cars with plenty of good miles left in them, all because the real answer was hiding behind a panel nobody thought to open. Before you go, I want you to have the rest of what I've learned standing under hoods over the years, the stuff that never comes up until you're already in a shop, being handed an estimate you didn't see coming. Everything I've learned from years of hands-on repair work, what to check, what to ignore, what a shop should never be charging you for, it's all in the Driveway Mechanics Manual. Nothing in it needs a lift or a lot of tools. It's linked in the description and pinned up top. Worth reading once, then keeping around for the next time something sounds off. Drop a comment and tell me which one of these 4 you're trying first, or if you've got a hydrogen peroxide trick of your own you've been sitting on for years. I read every one of them. And if you know somebody who just took their car in for a smell they couldn't explain, send them this before they pay for a part that was never actually the problem. I'll see you in the next one.